everybody, I'm Tom Vasel, and today we're taking a look at 6 short reviews here of different games. From games about bouncing pigs on trampolines to games where you cut up everything inside the game. So let's get started. Pigs on Trampolines is a game about bouncing pigs on trampolines. I would like to tell you there's more to it than that, but there's not. Someone sent me a link to this game and I immediately was like, I need to check it out. The idea of bouncing stuff off trampolines is something I think to be, well, sound fun. Let me show you. So here we have the mud puddle, which is a bunch of plastic here. And we have these trampolines that players will have in front of them. Very tightly stretched material here, kind of like an actual trampoline, much thinner than that. And then you'll split these pigs up evenly between the players. And so what you do when you play this is you are trying to bounce your pig into the mud puddle, which, as you can see, I'm quite good at. Come on. I got him on the platform, which is something. Yes! Into the mud puddle. And then you get one of these. Now, as you're bouncing these and throwing them around, you can grab any one that you want. You don't have to go get your own. So you grab the ones that are closest to you, which means one's going to go flying into the corner. 2, that is crazy good. I am really doing this. Anyway, when all these are gone, all the little mud splotches are gone, whoever has the most is the winner of the game. Yeah, you weren't expecting more than that, right? That's the game. Now, incidentally, it takes a bit of Tetrising to get everything back in here. I was surprised at how hard it was until my kids showed me that the trampolines fit into each other, and that was the only way I was able to close the lid in the box. This game's a problem, right? I'm giving this game a 4 out of 10, and here's why. I like the concept of this game, but the concept of the game shouldn't be so hard. It's also weirdly player numbers. 2 to 3 players, that's an odd number of players. But you're bouncing the pig, and you have to learn how to throw the pig so that the nose hits it kind of right on. But then if it even hits the stand, now you saw me in the preview, I got 2 on. That's the best I've ever done, ever. And I almost felt like re-recording it to show my true skills, which are pretty poor. But you throw it, you bounce, it falls over the room, you run around. It's kind of a game for kids, but not a game that kids can do. And I find that to be kind of annoying. I think the trampolines are neat. I think the concept's neat, but kids are going to get bored of this very quickly, and then why own it at all? So I can't really recommend pigs on trampolines. Look, a pig. This is called Farm Club. I love the cover of this big pig here. This is a game in which you are going to be drafting animals and scoring cards and putting them in a little grid. Let's take a look. Each player is going to have their own board in front of them, which will show the farmhouse here and then the 8 spaces around that. And what players are going to do on their turn is, well, the first thing, if you have a bird token and you start with one, you can discard it to wipe out these 3 goal cards or wipe out the row of animals and replace them. But then you're taking one of these groupings. You're taking the goal card and the animal. And you'll put the animal in one of these 8 spaces around the farmhouse. If you put it in a space that matches it, this shows a horse, I put a horse there, I get another bird token. And then we'll turn over a new card and draw a new animal from the bag to replace it. Now, if you don't want the goal card, you can discard the goal cards. Let's say I take these 2. I can discard the goal card to switch 2 animals or move an animal to another spot. Now, the reason that I'm doing all this is because I am trying to accomplish goals. Some goals have a lightning bolt on them. And this means, for example, if at any point I have this horse next to a chicken, I can score it, worth 3 points. This one says if I have these in the row, a sheep, a horse, and the goat in the same row, I'll get points. Some you don't score to the end of the game. This says if I end the game with only 1 chicken, I'll get 3 points. This says at the end of the game, if I have the most ducks in my farm compared to their players, I'll get 4 points. Instead of taking one of these cards, you can also pick a leader. You'll take one of these cards along with any one of these animals up here, and you'll put that animal in your farmhouse. They can never be moved. And at the end of the game, if you have these animals in your farm, you'll score points. So it doesn't have to be at the end of the game. It will be immediately when it happens if I have these animals. And when everyone's farm is filled up, the game's over, and whoever has the most points is the winner. I don't particularly like Farm Club, unfortunately. I have to give this one a 5 out of 10. And the reason is there's some interesting ideas in here. I like the way it looks. I like a lot of the concepts. But the problem is it just feels random. Those at the top, you can pick your leader that goes in the middle. That's like your one choice. But if you don't do that, you're kind of stuck with what's up there. And yes, you have the coin that lets you refresh a row. You get one of those, and you might get one or two more, but they're hard to do. But the animals that come up might not work for you, while they might work for somebody else. And sometimes a combo of the animal and the card just is such a clear help to somebody else. And because of that, I find the game to be too random. And then it's too small. You're only putting in a small 3x3 grid, and then you're done. I don't know. I didn't find it to be that interesting. So that's why I'm not really that interested in Farm Club. I like the look. I like the concept. I think it's interesting to have these cards, but it just feels too lucky and too short, which I guess maybe I can see someone seeing that as a benefit, but the game also then seems too thinky for that. It's kind of a weird combo that, for me, doesn't work. Katamino Tower. This is basically a puzzle. And Katamino's been out for a while. It's one of those games, and there's a lot of games like it, where you have a grid and you're putting Tetris-like shapes in that grid to fit them in. It's a puzzle. And I like it. This one here takes the same thing and puts it now on a cylinder. You're wrapping around a cylinder. It's sort of the same thing, but in a three-dimensional way. I'll show you. So here for the tower, you have this, paper towel holder here with a bunch of different pieces, 5 of them, which go around the rod in the middle. You'll take a challenge card. That challenge card will show you the pieces you need. So in this case, I need the 3 blues and the 3 yellows. And then I just need to make 2 levels here. It shows you a level 2 here. This is challenge number 1. So maybe I start with this one. This one goes here. That's going to go on 2 levels. And, oh no, maybe if I do that, and then put this one here. Look at that, I finished it. And then on the back is a fairly difficult to decipher way that shows you how the pieces fit in, which is not too hard, but when you get to these bigger levels and you're putting in almost all the pieces and making a level 5, that looks incomprehensible necessarily on the back. And indeed, you're going to have to complete one of these challenges to put the game away, because you have to put all the pieces on, then you slide this on, then you put it in a box where if you tilt the thing, it's going to fall out. You have to be careful storing this one. This game I'm giving a 6 out of 10 to because I think it's fine. I really don't like the packaging at all. I don't know, this weird lid, you can see it sticks out of here, and when you pull it out, you got to kind of do this, and then the cards come out. I mean, it's so messy on how the packaging works here. Not a big fan of that. I mean, how am I supposed... I now have to put it back in like that. I had to drop it in, then put the rules in. I don't know. I just don't like this packaging. Puzzle-wise, it's really hard for me. It's hard for me. I mean, you can use these... I mean, the first levels aren't that hard, but as it gets by, I found it to be very challenging because you're thinking three-dimensional, and you look at some of the shapes, and you go, well, these are on 3 levels, the shapes, so therefore... I need to start putting the bottom here, but it's one of those ones you build it up and you're like, and unbuild it. And I wish the solution key was a little easier to read. People might say, oh, it's not hard. I struggle with following the solutions, and I have to every time I put it away because I have to use one of the level 5s to put them back on. That being said, I still think it's interesting. It's cool. It makes a neat shelf thing. So I'd give Katamino Tower a 6 out of 10. Nice quality, not the box, but the thing itself. And it might be something you just leave out for people to mess with. Lab Notes, the ChemLab roll and write game, is basically, and what they're not necessarily saying on here, is it's the roll and write version of a popular game called Compound It, which is, I'm not talking about that game today, but I want to be clear that I think Compound It is a very good game. I like it a lot. Lab Notes is a roll and write version of that. I'm less excited about it, but here's how it plays. Hey, this game comes with a pencil sharpener and pencils. You're going to have a sheet of paper, and you're going to roll dice equal to basically one more than a number of players in the game. And each player is going to be drafting these and writing the element on the board. And then the last element that's left over, everybody's going to get. You can trash elements, although that can start fires in your area. And when you have fires, you're going to have to cross off whole sections. But what you're trying to do is you are trying to make these cards in the middle. The game starts with 2, but more will show up as time goes by. And each of the different sections that you make will have bonds, which is the number of lines that you draw in between things. And those bonds are going to be worth points. The more bonds that you have, the more points. These triple bonds are worth the most. And you're trying to make your tools here. Each player will start with 3 tools. There's different kinds of tools, but each are the same. When you make it, you can start ignoring things like a lab fire, which might show up from the deck of cards, or something here that this prevents note cards from being moved, because when someone finishes one, they move, and you're going to score extra points based on where they are. The one closest to the deck will give you points. And when one person finishes their sheet and fills everything in, then you're going to score points here at the end of the game. You'll lose points for sections that you burned. You'll get bonus points from the note cards that you finished, points that you've connected, and you'll get a total score. And whoever has the most points is the winner. Lab notes, and I'm going to compare lab notes to compound it in some ways, because compound it and lab notes have the same kind of thing. Oh, there's fires that might show up in your thing when you flip over a fire card and things. But everything in lab notes is just more random. And while there is randomness in compound it, there's charming and ways to mitigate it. Not a lot of ways to mitigate it here. I found the scoring of this to be really wonky, especially if you're starting to build stuff and the card closes to the deck and you just have some stuff set up to do that. Gives you 6 extra bonus points, which in this game is a lot. And it also just feels chaotic. You're like, ooh, I'm building this thing, I'm almost there. And then someone scores a card in the middle, and then the card you were trying to do goes off the board. And then you have a bunch of these elements here, and there's not a lot you can do with them. And just the dice rolling, it's your turn to draft first, yay. And then the one you want, it doesn't come up. I just found it to be too much randomness. I get the science. The science is fine, and the idea of putting the elements together, I like that concept. I just didn't think it really worked in this game. I didn't find it to be that much more interesting than other roll and write games. And it looks neat, has an interesting theme, which brings it up a little bit, but at the end, it's just a 5 out of 10. Mind Map is a game that I thought I would really enjoy. Well, yeah, I guess you can see where this is going. A party game where you put something on a chart. And I like charts, although there is another chart game called Charty Party, which has sold quite well and I think is pretty terrible. This is the same idea. You're taking ideas, you're taking things and putting them on. Like, how much will old people like this? How much would you put this in your bedroom? And then you put items and everyone has to guess where you put them. Let's take a look. Mind Map takes place over 3 rounds. In each round, you're going to draw a bunch of random words. And you can see I got pair of dumbbells, cactus, role-playing dice, etc. Each thing has 2 sides to it based on the number of players in the game. You're then going to draw 2 criteria. So I have great for the holiday season and ease to use. Then you're going to draw another random word. So here we have water gun, which is just randomly placed here between these 2 arrows. It's kind of our focus word here. And just so everyone knows, I didn't set this up. This is a random thing here. And then each player is going to get a number. And so let's see what my secret word is. My secret word is 6. So I have to put firecracker onto this grid. So is firecracker better for the holiday season than water gun? I think so. And is it easier to use than a water gun? Not really. Maybe. So I might do this. I might put it here. Oh, easy to use would be here. It's on this scale, but great for the holiday season. So great for the holiday season, I might be like this because it's really good for the holiday season, but not as easy to use as a water gun. And everyone else is going to be doing the same thing. Now, some of these, I fortunately got an easier one here like firecracker, but massage table. I don't know that it even has anything to do with the holiday season and easy to use. How do you use a table? But everyone's going to be putting their stuff somewhere into this grid. Then everybody has tokens that match the numbers, and you are going to be placing these on each person, trying to guess the word that is theirs. You put it on everyone's but your own. Then we reveal, and everyone gets a point. If someone guessed you correctly, then they get 1 point. If you guess someone else correctly, you get 1 point. So you get a lot of points if you want. You play 3 rounds. Whoever has the most points is the winner. Mind Map simply has too many rules for a party game, and it fails one of the party game's, tenets of a party game. So if you make a party game, one of the tenets of a party game is the word selection has to be fantastic. And I don't think it is in this game. Because that is everything about a party game could be good rules or not, but you better have some good selections in there. And here, there's so much that reference word that you put in the middle throws things out so much. Sometimes let's say in the example I showed you, firecrackers had been the reference word. Well, then almost everything would have been less on holidays, because when you think firecrackers, you think, at least in America, Independence Day. Outside America, you probably think of some holiday for firecrackers. So then everything is below that. And you might say, well, how much more below that? Well, it's a little bit more below. And just putting stuff on the grid, you look at it, and sometimes it's very clever. And in the rule book, they show you a clever one. And you're like, well, that makes sense. They show you clever ideas. But for the most part, we're like, well, just how useful is a lawn gnome? Well, that's not useful at all. But let me give you some combos here. So this one says, great for parties with friends. And I have here ski suit. I don't know if you know how to put that into that category, or it requires an instruction manual, and I have postcard. Well, I don't think that requires an instruction manual, but neither does cake mold or a crystal vase. How do you determine which of those needs? The game isn't funny or fun. And that's a problem for a party game. I like the concept of the game, but I don't like the game itself. I found it to be just a dud when it lands on the table. And a dud is a bad thing for a party game to be. This one is a 4 out of 10. Digsaw, a game about cutting. Yes, this is a roll, cut, and collect. It is a roll and cut game. It is not the first in this genre. In fact, it's not even the second. There's at least 2 other games out there about this. And this is a game where you're going to roll dice and then cut on a grid. Let's take a look. In this game, you're going to pick a level. Everyone's playing the same level. So the levels get harder and trickier as time goes by. And then you'll cut out the hexagon and the little scoring thing at the bottom so that you have these. These dice are used by everybody, and each player gets a pair of scissors. So each round of the game, someone's going to roll the dice. So I rolled a 2 red and a 4 green. This means you're going to take the color from one die and the number from the other. So I might go, I want a 4, cut 4 on the red line, or 2 on the green line. So I'll take my scissors. I have to start from the outside or where I cut something already. So maybe I'll do 4 on the red line. And I'll cut 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, why did I do that? Because I'm trying to get cut off pieces of this paper. These artifacts, every symbol on here is an artifact. The number 6 is an artifact worth 6 points. These blue gems are worth, well, right now they're worth 5 points each. But anytime I can't make a cut or something goes wrong, I'm going to have to cross off the highest number of one of my artifacts to make those other artifacts worth less. So maybe in the future, let's say I rolled a green 2. Now, a green 2, I could not cut here because that would be cutting through something. I could start here if I wanted to and cut 2 straight that way. But the point goes here, so I could cut 2 green, and I would cut like this, 1, 2, and then this piece comes off. I now have a piece. This will score for me at the end of the game because it has a single solitaire artifact in it. And that's what you're going to do. You're just going to keep cutting this up until your last piece in your hand has 1 artifact. You will then score your artifacts per the numbers and things like that. And once you get to level 5, there's bombs and rocks you can't cut through. Well, the bombs actually show up in level 4. And there's a few various things, and it's much easier. You have much more wide open spaces on level 1. And then you just add up your points, and whoever has the most points is the winner. Digsaw is a game that it's interesting, right? I like the concept of it, of cutting. There's almost no interaction between players. So you need to get that out of the way right now. I'm not looking at you at all. I'm sitting there looking at the things roll, trying to cut and stuff like that. And the other players are not involved. I'm just trying to do that and cut. At the end, I'm like, oh, okay. There's a couple things. I like the concept. I like the cutting. There's a couple things that keep me from loving it more. I'm giving Digsaw a 6 out of 10. One of them is the randomness sometimes is just mind-boggingly boring. Like, oh, I rolled a 2 red and a 2 green. So I'm cutting 2 on red and green. I really want it blue. Blue hasn't been rolled for 4 turns in a row now. All right, I'll cut a different way. Just sometimes the randomness doesn't work in your favor. It doesn't matter how clever you are. You get to the end, you're like, well, I lost. And it's kind of a weird system where you lose a point on the different gems you've collected. And I found sometimes I look, I'm like, I have the same amount of all these gems. So I'll just count them up. I have 4 of that gem, 5 of this one. So the one I have 4 of will be the one that's worth 1 less point now. It doesn't really matter. The ones that are more expensive, losing a point on them is usually better because you have fewer of them. It's just kind of an oddity on how that worked. It's interesting. It's kind of the fun game I'd bring out to teach people and be like, hey, let's try this. And everyone's cutting. Oh, that's interesting. I just don't see it getting a lot of repeat plays. I mean, if nothing else, you got a bunch of scissors now. They're not great scissors. But I could see this amusing some people. And I found it to be an interesting thing to take around. But Digsaw I found to be fine. And that's it, folks. Nothing spectacular in this group of games. But maybe you saw something you liked. And maybe you like it way more than me. So then tell people in the comments. Let people know so that they can go check out other opinions on these games. But that's what I have for you today on the Dice Tower. 6 quick reviews. Until next time, I'm Tom Vasel. We'll see you later.